for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quan LX and Big Angry Adams, ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now.
Involved in the January 6th riot on the Capitol, pardoned by President Trump, has been shot and killed during a traffic stop in Indiana. State police are looking into what happened. They say a deputy tried to arrest Matthew Huddle when, as they put it, an altercation happened between the officer and Huddle, which resulted in the officer shooting his gun. Ryan Riley is following this story for us. So what else do we know?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the first major news stories to emerge from one of these January 6th defendants who was pardoned. I mean, this is something that a lot of my sources have been expecting for a while. Wasn't sure necessarily when it was going to first fall, but this is probably the trickle of stories we're going to get on January 6th going forward. It'll be about people who committed other crimes outside of this. Because remember, while there were certainly a lot of people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th and didn't have a long criminal record and might even have no criminal record at all, and were citizens otherwise, upstanding citizens otherwise, according to their neighbors, there was this whole contingent of these January 6 rioters who had some really awful criminal histories behind them.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Obviously, some problematic pardons and commutations at the end of the Biden presidency, including people on death row, family members of Biden's that might have been in corruption, are involved in very high-level lucrative corruption and tax avoidance. That didn't get a lot of media attention. And then we immediately, which is unusual, had an incredible wave of pardons at the beginning of the Trump administration that did get a lot of media attention. And, they were directed originally, they were saying the nonviolent protesters on January 6th. But Trump went far further with that, and including people that had been convicted of sedition, people that were convicted of spraying pepper spray in officers' faces, attacking officers with batons. This man, Huddle, got 6 months in custody and was sentenced November of 23, and then a year of supervised release. Still on supervised release until his pardon last week, where he was cut loose on society, and within days is involved in an altercation with law enforcement that left him dead. And the question I have for you, is this angry guy, would he still be alive had Trump not pardoned him? I think he absolutely would.
First of all, he was already out of jail, Charles.
But he's on supervised
when
release.
He received the pardon.
Right.
So he was on quote-unquote home arrest, and he had restrictions upon release, but he was still loosed in society to roam around society as a normal citizen. What I would like to know is, where's the body cam footage of what took place between him and this quote-unquote trooper, deputy, etc.? Let us see the body cam footage. I also would want to know what led up to the altercation, how did it proceed, what caused a situation to go from 0 to 100 to where deadly force was necessary, because I didn't read anywhere where it says he was an armed suspect in this traffic stop, etc. So before I rush to judgment, and I'm damn sure not going to sit here and say that if Trump had not pardoned him, that he would still be alive. Hell no, because he was already released on society and only had a year of supervised release. And he had done a lot of that year already. He was already walking the streets. So I'm not going to say that.
Okay, initially, do some more research. It was a sheriff's deputy.
I said deputy or trooper. I said deputy or trooper.
And Matthew Huddle had a gun on him. He most certainly could not have had a gun on him while he was on federal supervised release. That would have been a violation.
But that's why I'm telling.
Well,
no. Wait a minute. You're wrong. No, you're wrong.
No, I'm
you're
not wrong. I'm not wrong. I deal with this issue.
If he was pardoned, that conviction was thrown away.
No, I agree.
If he was pardoned, he got all his rights back.
I agree.
So if he was pardoned, he can now have a weapon. He no longer has a conviction.
But that wasn't, again, what I said was, had he been on supervised release, which he was before the pardon, he would have not been allowed to drive around with a gun. Now, the allegation is he resisted arrest and he was armed. Now, clearly, yes, I would love to see the video.
Show the body cam footage, man.
I think if there is body cam, we need far more rapid transparency in America.
Because one thing I've learned, a lot of these cops lie.
Okay, well, a lot of people lie.
This is true,
there are
too.
Good cops, there are bad cops.
This is true, too. But
this guy was a bad guy.
But one thing we have learned through body cam footage, that a lot of these cops will lie. So before I throw this man's life down the drain and said he got what he deserved, let me see that body cam footage.
No, I agree. But my point was, I think we can also agree that he would still be alive today, but for the fact he was pardoned last week.
I totally disagree with that. Completely disagree with that. Also because he was already released, okay?
Supervised release.
And then once he got all of his rights back, let me ask you a question. What if it comes out that this cop was in the wrong?
Okay.
What if it comes out that this cop was overzealous?
Change the
what
fact.
if it comes out that this cop overreacted? So then is he still justified for his own murder?
It does not change the fact that if he had been continued on supervised release, which he was on, right? And I am a supporter. I think that the government went way too far after standing down and ignoring arson, murder, robbery, assault, rape for all the social justice protests where they just put on horse blinders and act like, oh, mostly peaceful while the city's burning behind them. I think that we were ideologically overzealous. I think the Justice Department and the Biden administration was making an effort to tell Republicans, you better shut up and sit down.
Let me tell you what's going to shock a lot of people.
That doesn't change the fact that if he was still on supervised release, not allowed to roam freely and not allowed to have a gun, he'd probably still be alive.
Let me say this. A lot of people are going to be shocked once all of those files are released on how the FBI conducted their investigations, their surveillance of January 6 suspects, their investigations, and the prosecutions. A lot of people are going to be shocked that a lot of those people were convicted solely to demonize and destroy Donald Trump's chances of ever getting reelected for another term as president. So they used those January 6 supporters as cannon fodder, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen many protests, and I've led more protests in Texas than any other activist in history. That January 6 protest was nearly as rough and tough as I've seen some other ones.
Well, there was actual violence.
I've been to protests where people got seriously shot, injured, wounded, and somebody even died.
People died. One person died. It was a protester. But there were people attacked. The officers were fighting to keep people out. A losing battle. They were overwhelmed. It was a very violent protest. And for the people that engaged in violence,
I disagree.
Hold on.
A few might have been violent, but call it very violent. No, man.
You should watch the videos.
Charles,
it was very violent.
I didn't see a damn thing on fire.
Hold on.
I didn't see nothing on fire.
Hold on.
You say very violent? Okay. I didn't see nothing on fire.
Well, was it? You're right. George Floyd protests far more violent.
Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion.
I don't disagree.
But Charles, I didn't see no buildings crumbling. I didn't see whole blocks on fire at the Capitol.
But you did see it.
Let's be honest, Charles.
You did see that in the George Floyd protest.
I saw a lot of them white stores go up in flames.
Okay, you also saw a lot of black stores, a lot of Asian stores.
Which was silly. Because one thing we should never do, when you're angry at white folks in the black community because of a police action or police misconduct, you don't burn down your own damn community and destroy your own community as a way of just voicing your pleasure. I know some people are going to say, well, we don't own them stores anyway, but guess what? We have to use those stores to survive in our own community.
Well, you're saying it's okay to burn down white stores?
I didn't say that.
You did say that.
No, I did not.
You just said don't burn down your own.
I said, why in the hell would we burn down our own community as a way to show our displeasure?
Do you think it was okay?
I didn't say go to white people's house, but I will say this.
Do you think it's okay?
If you're mad with white folks, go where they live and talk to them about it.
Okay. Anyhow, let's get back to the point. I just wanted to lock you down there on your little bit of your dash of racism.
No.
But at the end of the day, there was a violent protest, and I disagree with the violent people getting a pardon, but Trump's the president. But I will agree with you that the whole insurrection narrative, the fact that Biden said himself, he was trying to create a scenario where Trump would not be allowed to run again.
That's right.
And that is why
when
they
it
all
comes
got together and said insurrection,
but
insurrection,
I said it earlier.
insurrection. It was not an insurrection.
When it comes
was a
out,
protest gone
what
out of
they
control.
did, and even some of them agents engaged in criminal conduct with these January 6 investigations.
Okay.
And in fact, those secret relationships that they had with the White House to influence these investigations and outcomes, that's coming out, man.
Well, I think
that's
what was
coming
more
out.
problematic was the pressure that the White House was putting on state-level prosecutors, both in Fulton County, Georgia, and Manhattan, to bring state charges against Donald Trump.
And it's all going to come out now.
There was this overwhelming effort to prevent him from running. And that's the real problem with Democrats, is instead of having some accountability, right? Instead of saying,
we said we made a mistake.
Hey, we've screwed up.
Calculated mistake.
We have paid more attention
and we
to the
are
LGBT
better than that.
community.
Let's move forward.
We have paid more attention to the progressive fringe. We have forgotten about the hardworking, everyday Americans, black, white, Asian, Latino,
no. They've been forgot about us.
That are the working.
In fact, they pretend like they cared about us.
The Democrats forgot about them, overemphasized the fringe, and lost to Donald Trump. And what they wanted to do was job the system so they didn't have to change. And now we're in a reality where people like John Fetterman are being given a larger voice than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because Fetterman is saying, hey, I just wanted better for the Pennsylvania working class. And personally, what I would prefer is to see either party. I don't care, Democrats, Republicans, I don't care which party. I would like to see one of the two major parties in this country get back to being concerned about whether or not the lifestyle of the hardworking American middle is getting better or worse.
But I would rather see a real strong, independent third party.
That's not going to happen.
I think
too much money's in this game.
I think the two-party system in America is outdated and antiquated. And I believe if we really want real fairness and representation and a lot of the shenanigans to end in Washington, we must have a third party. Because right now, politicians are doing what is in the best interest of the party before the best interest of the American people. And if you had a third party, it could balance that.
Let me throw you a curveball. We weren't even going to talk about it. Last week, Donald Trump started talking about doing away with the income tax. What do you think? I think Donald Trump figures out a way to tax the very rich fairly.
He got everybody vote.
So they can get their shelters and take away all the tax havens, and either it's a regressive fat tax,
if he get rid of income tax,
if you elevate the poverty line,
he gonna win another term.
Flat tax, or you just do away with it generally and start paying for it
Could
for
you
tax
imagine?
and other things. I think all of America would stand up
and vote for him
and say, hey, you're going to get the government's hand out of my pocket. I'm going to have more economic liberty for my wife,
he win
my
a
children,
landslide.
my families. Come on now. All right.
In my heart, I'm ethnocentric, which means I think my race is the superior one.
Oh,
Wait, no, let me finish.
Hey, look. So, white is better than all.
No, let me finish.
Go ahead.
I think everybody thinks that, they're just not honest about
Hey,
it.
I'm not racist though. I like all types of kinds.
Did I say I don't like people?
People only think
Wait,
that.
so you said you are what? You are
You
racist?
saying you're like
You're
I think
racist?
everybody's a racist at that level.
No, you said you are racist.
I did. Yeah, I'm
Say
trying to
it.
be
Yes,
honest.
I'm racist.
No, I'm not saying it again. I've said it enough.
So you're
I
racist.
think I slightly feel you stop speaking.
Yes, you said
Put your phone up.
I respect
I'm
you.
putting
I
the
actually
phone up.
respected you for a while, but like
I'm putting
now,
the phone up.
I don't got no more respect for you.
Yeah, for real. I don't think I got respect for him no more, bro.
In this round, here's Quanell X.
Charles, we just watched a teacher in a shocking video in a classroom with his majority black and brown students admitting that he's a racist, going on to say that I believe my race is the superior race. This is the teacher speaking this to his students and says to them, you ought to respect me more now because I'm honest. I've always said this, Charles. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught Minister Malcolm X, who taught the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that if a people for hundreds of years would not treat you right, why would they turn around and teach your children right? And what self-respecting Jewish person would send their children to German teachers to be educated? We are the only people who have suffered such a Holocaust in America that send our children to white teachers. And certainly not all of them are like that. There's some good ones, but far too many are secretly just like what this man is. That's why Malcolm X and Kwame Nkrumah and Marcus Mosiah Garvey said that black people got to take control of our own educational systems within the black community to protect our children from racist teachers like this. Do you think that man is by himself like that? Just the other day, we talked about a teacher who called on ICE agents to come and raid his school. come and raid his classroom and asked him to come and take and lock up his own students because they're illegals. These are the teachers that are in the classroom charged with educating black and brown minds to be great minds in this nation. If they believe that the minds they're teaching are inferior to theirs and their own children, they'll never teach our children in the best of manner or give them the truth.
Well, the problem with that math is when you look at school districts that are dominated by African Americans without white teachers, without superintendents, without a diversity, right? You're not seeing an elevated level of performance. In fact, you're seeing quite the opposite. But I'm glad we talked about this segment because this is an older clip, but I do think it is a good juxtaposition from the clip from last week where we had, and you said he called ICE, you had what has now been exposed. He was doxxed as a white male substitute teacher in Fort Worth who posted on X, that was Twitter, that ICE should go into schools. He didn't contact ICE. He didn't call ICE. He didn't disclose any protected FERPA information. He just tweeted that people aren't speaking English in the class and ICE should come there. It was a tweet I disagreed with, but I did defend his right to off duty talk about an issue of public concern, even in an offensive manner, without a reprisal from his employer because he worked for a public employer who was constrained by the First Amendment.
So what you did is made an excuse for a racist snake teacher.
No, I was talking about the First Amendment, and if you don't defend free speech if you only defend speech you agree with. I disagreed with that. But in this situation, it's very different, right? So this was a teacher in class, right? You have something called the Pickering test defined by the United States Constitution, where first you have to say, is it a matter of public concern? Obviously, everybody in America is talking about illegal immigration. It's very clearly a matter of public concern. Did he make an inappropriate, ugly comment on it? Yes, he did, but he has a right to do so, right? I think he is protected from reprisal because of the First Amendment, which you're not for a private employer. A private employer can fire you for any reason, not a legal reason. What's different with this teacher is justifying racism. And the only racist on this show, you love to talk about white people and then also pearl clutch about racism. Just last week you were saying all whites are liars.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did.
I said white people that have the mindset of white supremacy are liars.
Oh, the bad
but
whites
certainly
versus the
not
good whites,
all
right?
white people. There's some very God-fearing, intelligent, truth-telling white people. But there are too many of them who freely lie, like you do.
You're what you call a racist, Quadell, which is fine. Hey,
a racist with no power.
And this guy was a racist. You have plenty of power.
Oh, racists with no power.
That's absolutely
white
another
folk
lie.
got all the power in America. They're the ones who have the power to expand, to give strength, and make reality their racist mindsets.
Living in poverty in America than any other race, right? You're just
Charles,
lying.
this teacher should be fired.
Hold on.
That teacher should be fired, both of them.
No, this teacher should absolutely be fired because it wasn't a matter of public concern, and they set it to a classroom. It was not off duty. He will have the Pickering test gives this teacher no First Amendment protections. This teacher was fired, and he should have been fired. And it's very different from a teacher at home getting on Twitter, talking about a matter of public concern, even if he's saying something ugly, because the First Amendment protects that. People that think the First Amendment should only protect people that they agree with don't believe in the First Amendment.
I got a good question for you.
Go ahead.
Why is it doing segregation of the schools in America, which was not a right thing to do or a good thing, but when schools were segregated, you had more black men going into schools of higher learning than you've had since integrating the school system? Why is it you had more black fathers engaging the teachers, engaging the school environment during segregation than we've had doing integrated school systems? Why is it that the test scores of black children went down in integrated school systems, what they did during segregated school systems? Because during that time, Charles, we had more black teachers in the school system.
That's not true.
Let me finish. During segregation, yes. During segregation, majority of every teacher in a black school during segregation was black. But you know what the difference was, Charles? Most of those teachers were the women who went to the church in that same community. Most of the teachers lived in the very community in which they taught at the schools at, Charles. And during that time, you had more male teachers employed in the school system of segregation than during integration. Let me tell you something, brother. We as black people must start redeveloping and protecting our children's academic growth and development, first and foremost in the home. We got to set new cultural standards in the black community. We cannot show more love and honor to rappers and athletes than we show to the little academic giants in the classroom who are doing some wonderful things. I would love to see the day when we as black people uplift, applaud, honor, and celebrate the valedictorian and the kids in the top 10% of the class like we do some athletes on the basketball and football field. Until we get there as a people within our community, academically, we're not going to do what God has asked, demanded, and given us the power to do. But guess what? The entire educational system in America has been on a downward spiral for the last 30 years. Look at where we were 30 years ago academically on the world stage compared to where we are now.
Well, actually, it's not the entire, and that's the problem. There's huge disparities in accomplishments, right, between affluent communities, upper middle class communities of all races, right, and impoverished communities, right? And there are, you look at you can't speak holistically about Asians, but let's use them as a demographic, right? A hugely migrant population. Many of them came over here with nothing, right? But within their family groups and neighborhood groups and ethnic groups, they did not celebrate obstinance. They didn't celebrate nonconformity. They didn't celebrate, disrupting society. Instead, what they celebrated was going to school, get an education, become a professional, starting a business, doing these things, right?
And many of them benefited from civil rights legislation that gave them opportunities.
Hold on. No. See,
that's true.
So 50 years ago, I'm going to finish this point.
No, who the hell is he? He don't run no show like that. Producer, you do what you got to do.
In the 70s, you had more black people in medical school than you do now, and yet now it's easier for black people to get into medical school than anyone else. Where's the problem?
It used to be.
No, it's not used to be.
No, because now they say DEI has been ripped out of the school selection process now.
How many shows have we done?
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.